I found that when people are learning to paint, they often lack confidence about knowing when they should stop. Many are really worried about overworking a painting, especially in watercolour. But the fact is, if you're aiming for realism in your paintings, then you've got to be able to capture as much detail as you can see in your subject. It really is a case of the devil's in the detail with this sort of painting. For instance, with this viola, it could have been tempting to stop when you got to this sort of stage. But look how much more realistic the painting appears once all the details have been added in. So stage 1 is training your eyes through practice to see all of the detail in your subjects. Then step 2 is to capture it all with your paint. My method involves applying often quite watery consistency paint onto dry paper and paint underneath. Working in this way avoids muddiness where paints mix on the paper. Because you don't get muddiness with my method, overworking isn't such an issue and you can capture masses of detail. Here's my 3-point guide for capturing all those details so that you can be confident that you've finished your painting and it's looking realistic. I'm using this viola flower as an example, and some of the footage is sped up. Number 1 is edges. If you've built up in layers, you've probably ended up losing some definition to your edges. Add these back in with a fairly watery mix of paint to match the tone that you see. This extra layer should slightly darken the edge as well as crispen it. To capture all of the details, you'll see I'm using a very small treble 0 brush. It's from the Animason set, and the hairs are especially short, which gives you masses of control. Number 2 is visual texture. I use the term visual texture to refer to the sorts of markings you find on your subjects. They could be caused by actual physical texture like hairs or grooves, or they could be caused by pattern. As we're working in 2 dimensions, it doesn't really matter to us. With botanical subjects, there's almost always a surprisingly rough visual texture to them, and very rarely is that visual texture very smooth. You want to make sure you use your brush to create a variety of different markings, many of which are quite small, so as to recreate the visual texture of your subject properly. It's one of the main reasons that I like to work larger than life, so that it's easier to use your brush to capture all that detail. And it's certainly a reason that I prefer to work from high quality photographs, which makes seeing all that visual texture detail so much easier. Number 3 is darkening up. At the final stages of a painting, you'll be in a position to make a final tonal assessment of your painting, compare it to your subject or to your reference photo, and look for any areas that should be taken darker. This is so often what's lacking from more traditional watercolours, which can look a little bit washed out. Always take a step back and view your painting as a whole, ideally next to your reference photo or subject. Although we're working on details here, we need to be able to stand back and assess the piece as a whole to make our final tonal judgments. So that was my 3-part guide for making sure you capture all the detail you need to for realistic work, so that you can be confident you've finished your painting. There's a full step-by-step tutorial of this viola painting available as part of my online school. If you've enjoyed this video, please visit watercolorswithwow.com for information on the materials I recommend, more tip videos, my advice blog and lots more. Thanks for watching.